Hey Dethroners, welcome back to another episode of the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. I'm Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist and CEO of the Dethroning Your Inner Critic coaching company. And today I want to talk about the real roots of your lack of fulfillment and self-doubt. So if you are on a journey of self-discovery, this really begins with a single realization. And that is that we have within us a false self, the existence of actually a separate self that's been carefully crafted by our inner critic to shield us from the harsh reality out there that we, in some way, are not okay. Now, we think that's a reality, that we're not okay, and therefore we have to figure out how to make sure that we're okay out there in the world, okay? Now, this false self, this is what I call your inner critic self, this emerges when we first have very early experiences of some form of emotional insecurity, which every human experiences. Now, usually this happens between the ages of about 3 to 7, okay? It could be triggered by a minor incident, right? Like we are yelled at for not cleaning up our room, or something silly like that, or hitting our brother, right? Or it could be a more traumatic event, okay? But there is something that happens where we have this initial feeling of extreme inadequacy, extreme not okayness inside our body. And this is what sets the stage for this lifelong identification with our inner critic self, okay? So that's our automatic mind. And that first gets formed to protect us from that overwhelming fear that we experience, that we're going to be rejected, or that in some way we're unloved, or in some way we're unworthy. So that's where all these unconscious beliefs start to form about how we must figure out how to prove our worthiness. Okay. And when we do that, when we are living our life always trying to prove our worthiness in some way, this actually shapes how we perceive the world. It shapes how we perceive ourselves. It shapes how we perceive the occurrences that are going on in our daily lives. So I'm from Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia. I'm actually from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I watched Jason Kelce's retirement speech from the Philadelphia Eagles this week. And I was struck by a perfect example of how our inner critic can actually inadvertently fuel our success. So Jason Kelce said that his mother always said that the best way to get Jason to do something is to tell him that he can't do it. Now, absolutely, that can fuel Jason's success. And of course, he's had an incredibly successful career playing for the Philadelphia Eagles for 13 years. But it illuminates something, okay, that within Jason Kelce was a drive to always prove that he could do anything and that he was valuable. Now, absolutely, that fueled his success. That fuels a lot of people's success, but there's a hidden cost to allowing our inner critic to continue to dictate our goals and our dreams, okay? So for many people, despite what looks like outward success, and I don't know Jason Kelce, so I'm not talking about him. I'm just talking about a lot of successful people that I work with and interact with on a daily basis, okay? So despite outward success, Okay. There are so many people that grapple with this never ending sense of inadequacy and insufficiency. Okay. And this perpetual striving for that external validation is actually what fuels our ongoing dissatisfaction. And it's what prevents us from truly experiencing true joy, true peace, true love of who we already are, true love of the life that we're already living. Okay. And that's because we live in a society that perpetuates this belief that our fulfillment lies out there. Okay. And that's why we live in a world that's underlying it. There's a sense of dissatisfaction and discontent that fuels our culture. Okay. So most people, when you look out into your future, it's basically just a continuation of this vicious cycle of discontent and lack of fulfillment, right? So we think that we're looking out into this future and we're thinking, well, once I achieve that, once I accomplish that, once I get to that level of my life, that's when I'll feel the satisfaction. Okay. So we've got to keep recognizing this grip of our inner critic. It's the first step towards really getting in touch with what lies hidden below that false self, which is our authentic self. Okay. So the world that gets created by our inner critic is actually an illusion. And it is built upon fear and doubt that maybe sometimes we can't even see. But even though we can't see it, it distorts our perceptions. It creates narratives of inadequacy and unworthiness. And beneath that veil of our inner critic, that's where our authentic self lives. But if we can't see our inner critic, we can't ever get to our authentic self. It actually lies hidden below our inner critic. Okay. And our authentic self is really the embodiment of wholeness and love and truth. Okay. So to access this, we've got to first start seeing very clearly the distorted reality that has been perpetuated by our inner critic and embrace the truth of who we really are. Now, I created the mind method because I want everybody to understand how to unhook themselves from their inner critic, how to identify and disrupt those thought loops that are perpetuated by our inner critic, because there's a ripple effect to that. Okay. There is a ripple effect that doesn't just exist in our experience of our lives. It actually ripples out into how we show up in the world. It ripples out into how we parent our children. It ripples out into how we show up for our significant others. Okay. And so Marianne Williamson says this perfectly. She says, I think she actually got this from A Course in Miracles, but she says that there's really only two emotions. There's love and there's fear, right? So when we are in the experience of what we could say is love, which includes peace and gratitude and fulfillment and satisfaction, we're in touch with our authentic self. When we're in fear, which could be anything from anger to jealousy to sadness to resentment to loneliness, we're in fear. Okay. And when we are living our lives in that fear-based inner critic, we really don't trust the outside world, right? We feel like other people are scary and we have to protect ourselves from their judgment, from their criticism, from their rejection, from the possibility that they might see that we're really inadequate and we're really not whole. Okay. So things like compassion, forgiveness, these are not things that will be perpetuated by our automatic mind. Okay. So consciously choosing moment by moment by moment to align yourself with a very different voice inside your mind that you might not have access to yet. But that is the voice that allows you to tap into very different emotions, very different beliefs about yourself, very different beliefs about what's possible, and therefore has you taking different actions that create a different trajectory for how your future is going to unfold. Okay. So when we can tune into our authentic self, we can navigate life with ease and grace. So every decision that we make from that place of our authentic self has clarity, it has purpose, and it actually guides us towards what is our true path. So many people never get to their true path. They stay on a path that's governed by their inner critic self, okay? And they never trust their inner guidance, their inner wisdom. And that is why no matter what their life looks like, they continue to struggle. They continue to see challenges as something to avoid rather than recognizing that all of our challenges are opportunities for growth and opportunities for further self-discovery. Okay. So now let's be clear, that journey towards finding our authentic self has a lot of obstacles. Okay. It's not a smooth path, but it is through these obstacles that we then come to see an inherent worthiness that's been elusive to us. Okay. That's how we dismantle the false narratives. That's how we get to that place of wholeness. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about building confidence and fulfillment from within yourself. Because what that requires is that there is a paradigm shift in how you approach your peace, your joy, your fulfillment. Okay. So contrary to what most people believe, confidence and fulfillment cannot be attained by silencing or suppressing our feelings of inadequacy. All right. We actually can't get rid of those deep inner critic feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness and unlovability and not good enoughness. Okay. So it actually is about understanding that our inner critic will always be a part of us. So the pursuit of confidence, getting confident, getting fulfilled through something outside of ourselves, it's futile. It's a road to nowhere. And it actually perpetuates the cycle of anxiety and dissatisfaction that plagues even the most successful individuals. So again, the mind method to dethroning your inner critic is really a revolutionary approach to harnessing the power of our minds. All right. We've got this powerful, unbelievable tool that is our mind, and we're not taught how to use it. So I wanted to create an easy, understandable method for people to be able to have a different relationship with their mind, to transcend the influence that their inner critic has had over their whole experience of themselves and the life that they're living. Okay. So instead of eradicating our inner critic, we've got to learn to coexist with it. We've got to learn to recognize it as separate from us. All right. So remember, this is so important to understand that your mind creates everything. It is the most potent tool that you have at your disposal, and we're not taught how to use it. Okay. So from a very young age, we're conditioned to follow this well-worn path that's been laid out by our automatic mind. All right. So we've got this pattern of thoughts and beliefs that create emotions, that create behaviors that were established when we were little girls and little boys. Okay, so we can often find ourselves reverting back to that childlike reaction when something in our life triggers us. And I know that you have seen other people acting like children when they are triggered as well. All right, so we have to see that little child that continues to live inside of us. Now, we don't have to go back and dissect our past and understand where did this come from and relive our past traumas. We really don't. Okay. What we really need to do is see how it is still fueling us right now and learn how to unhook ourselves from the grip of that mind and cultivate a deeper connection with our authentic self. Okay. So building confidence and fulfillment from within is not going to happen if you're continuing to use your same old mind to navigate your life. Okay. So if we're really in that, what we could say is the normal state of mind, the automatic state of mind that most human beings use to navigate life with, there's a lot of dysfunction in that. There's a lot of relentless identification with this incessant mind chatter. And that relationship that we have to that automatic mind is dysfunctional. It's a toxic, dysfunctional relationship. And you don't recognize that you are actually in a toxic, dysfunctional relationship with your mind. Okay? You have no ability to see reality as it really is if that's the mind that you're listening to all day, every day, which, by the way, speaks to us about 60 to 80,000 times a day. Okay. So we wonder why we can't feel the aliveness we want to feel, why we're exhausted, why we're overwhelmed, why we can't really access what is our birthright for joy and peace and interconnection and having not just self-compassion, but compassion for other people that are also gripped by their own inner critic. You know, when you can see that other people are really acting from their inner critic, it doesn't mean you accept their behavior, but you have a lot more room to see their own pain and therefore not be so reactive when they start acting from that false sense of self. Okay. So the more deeply we are entrenched with the illusion of that identity, which is, by the way, rooted in comparison, right? And consumption of things, of levels of worthiness, right? We think that our status defines us. We think that our money defines us. We think that our titles define us. We think that our children define us, all right? But beneath that facade, there's a dissatisfaction. There's an incompleteness, all right? So my desire for you, my hope for you is that you learn to recognize your inner critic voice for what it is. It's rooted in your unconscious, automatic way of seeing everything. So when you really know how to practice on a daily basis, unhooking yourself from that mind, you pave the way for, what can only be described as radical transformation, where you start to live a life of consciousness instead of living a life being on autopilot. Okay? Instead of identifying with the content of your thoughts, really recognizing the essence of your being, which lies in your authentic self. Okay? So the path for building your confidence, for building your fulfillment, for building your peace, you have to be willing to be on a journey of self-discovery. And that can be painful, especially if you've lived your whole life not wanting to see your pain. So I want to remind you that if you keep trying to run away from your pain will be the very thing that fuels your life. Okay? We can't break free of that which we are not willing to see. So it's a journey that it's not easy. Okay? I created a 4-step method and I call that method simple, but not easy. All right? So if you're interested in really understanding the difference between what is your automatic mind and what is that different mind that you may have never been able to fully access, I invite you to take part in my masterclass that's starting March 11th to 15th of 2024. We're going to meet an hour every day in a private Facebook group. And I am going to show you step by step how to identify your automatic mind, how to unhook yourself from that mind, and how to plug yourself into a very different mind that you can use every day to navigate a very different future. So to find out more, check out my Instagram. You can go to the link in my bio and learn all about how to register yourself for my upcoming masterclass. Thanks for listening today and have a great day.